Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another illuminating session of ENG3E, brought to you by WASA Distance Education Center. So once again, that's ENG3E, that's Grade 11 Workplace Preparation English, Term 2A. You're on the air with WASA Distance Educator Mike Laverty. I'm your instructor, and today's date is Tuesday, April the 4th, 2023. Our class today marks class number 29 of our 34 classes together. So we are finishing up our discussion of Unit 5, and we'll be doing that by going over the culminating activity. This culminating activity is divided into Part A and Part B. So today's class will provide you with a roadmap, provide you with an outline. As I've done with previous culminating assignments, I will go over the required elements of the assignment. In this case, we'll be looking at Part A. So I'll walk you through all of the required elements that you need to include to get full marks on this assignment. And then I will do a live demonstration where I talk about the writing process and just demonstrate how you could best go about completing this activity. So with that being said, just want to make sure that you're aware of some key dates as we move right along here. This is the week 8 of term 2A. So we have term 2B upcoming. So keep that in mind. Term 2B, the deadline to register is April the 11th. Oops. Yeah. So you need to register for 2B, or if you're an independent learner, you're fine. Just your registration won't change. The WASA office will be closed Friday, April 7th for Good Friday, and there will be no class on Monday, April 10th, as the office is also closed for Easter Monday. And graduation day is June 15th, 2023. So very important reminder, once June 15th comes and goes, you can no longer submit any assignments for this school year. So I'm just reaching out to those students who have, I have a few students for sure who have submitted many assignments for this course and are well upon their way to completing that credit. So if you put the work in now, keep going, and now's the time to reach out to myself. If you've got any questions, I'm here to help you. If you need any assistance with any of these assignments, and if you have questions about your career, not your career, your path to graduation, then please phone the office. We have lots of people here to help you. So now's the time. You've got a little bit over 2 months, and 2 months is definitely enough time to get a course out of the way if you haven't started yet. Might not be enough time to get 2 if you haven't started yet, but you gotta factor that in. It takes about 10 weeks to finish one of these courses. So with that in mind, just a review of our course schedule. Units 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all been covered in previous classes. So if you have any questions about assignments from the first 4 units, you need to go back and look at my YouTube channel to watch those videos. If you're listening live and you don't have access to the internet, we can also put classes onto a jump drive for you. So that's an option you might want to look into. We can just simply download the episodes, put them onto a jump drive, and then send those to you. So as long as you have a computer, Chromebook, or something with a USB stick, you can watch the videos that way. So of course, we spent last week, week 7, talking about Unit 5, and we'll need most of this week to finish off Unit 5. Once we've got Unit 5 out of the way, we will start talking about the final exam. And it's also a good time to mention that the final exam is worth 20% of your final mark. And Unit 5's culminating activity is worth 10%. So it's of all the culminating activities, this one is worth the most, right? And then all of your other combined unit work is the other 70. So 70 plus 10 is 80. 80 plus 20 gives us a total of 100. If you're listening to us live on the airways, 91.9, thanks for tuning in, or on Bell ExpressVu channel 972. You can always phone the studio at 1-807-737-4017, or the toll-free number, 1-800-465-7144, or by joining us on Zoom. And most classes through WASA, you can join on Zoom. You just need to know the specific code for the class. So if you go to zoom.us and ask to join a class, the meeting ID for this class is 417-6699799. Contact me if you've got any questions about accessing the Zoom, or ways to access this course, or any other course you may be taking with WASA Distance Education Center. One thing I'd like to mention, this might be different for other classes you take, but for me personally, I prefer that students send in their assignments in batches of, say, 5 to 10 assignments, or one large assignment like the culminating activity. And this allows me to give you feedback quickly and to guide your future work. If you haven't got started yet and you're not really sure what to do, then by all means, I have a lot of students who just submit 1 or 2 assignments, and that's totally fine, especially in the early days. But once you've got things rolling, it's nice to have the assignments come into sort of batches of 5 to 10. You can email me directly at mlaverty@nnecschools.org. That's MLAVERTY@nnecschools.org. Find me on Facebook or Facebook Messenger. That's Laverty space WASA. And please phone the studio at 1-807-737-1488, extension 2211. You can also press 0 if you just want to talk to the receptionist. And our toll-free number is 1-800-667-3703. If you're on Facebook, you can look up the WASA Facebook page. You can message us directly there and talk to one of our staff members. And so with the whole discussion about graduation and completing credits, I like to give students a timeline. So if you've been taking this course for about 7 weeks, you should have read all of the material. So that's, read or skimmed the study guide, units 1 through 4. You should have completed all assignments from units 1 to 3, completed most of unit 4, and have now begun to work on assignments from unit 5. And that's if you've been taking this course for about 7 weeks. All right, so on to today's lesson. We will look at our words of the day before we devote the entire class to the culminating activity. Part A, personal assessment, education, and success. Your learning goals for today are to take notes on the required elements of the culminating activity and to review the writing process. So we're going to have a look at that writing process once again. Very key component of ENG3E. So review the writing process before drafting an outline for Part A of your culminating activity. So I'm hoping that by the end of today's class, after you've watched it, one of your success criteria will be to create an outline for Part A. So hopefully you can have an outline, a general strategy for where you want to take this assignment. But before you do that, you need to reflect upon your own experiences as a student and select several moments from your life to discuss, because that's what Part A is really all about. Just looking at your life as a student in a variety of settings and writing about that experience, and then maybe even forecasting a little bit into the future. So with that in mind, we will jump right into today's lesson and starting with our words of the day. So I like to infuse my lectures with the Anishinaabe-Moan language. And, once again, it's important for me to state that I don't speak the language, but I am trying my best to learn new words, especially words that relate directly to what we're discussing in ENG3E. And I like to just compare English and Anishinaabe-Moan for, see how they're similar, see how they're different, and I think, at its core, ENG3E is a literacy course, and it's all about reading and writing and communication, and learning how your own language works is foundational, but you learn a lot about your own language by looking at other languages. So up on the board, I have two words in the Anishinaabe-Moan language, or Ojibwe. And the first is Giki Nu Ahmad Diwigamig. So that is a school. That's a noun. Remember, nouns are, a noun names a person, place, or thing. In this case, it's a school. The second word is a Gikin Awabi, and that is she or he learns by observation. So that is a verb. And if we look, we have this Gikino prefix, and it's in this word, and it's in this word too, that Giken. So that's, I'm assuming that prefix has to do with learning and education, and it does seem to appear in a lot of Anishinaabe-Moan words about education, learning, school, knowledge, that kind of thing. But I'm not quite sure. But again, I'm just making an educated guess here. And that's one of the reading strategies that you can employ. If you don't understand the meaning of a word, learning how, certain words share certain building blocks. They start the same way. They may end the same way, and then once you start picking up on the patterns, it does help you understand what the word means, or at least gain some kind of an insight into what the word could mean. So I have two English words of the day. One of them is erudition. So erudition is knowledge acquired by study, by research, through learning, through scholarship. If someone has spent years and years in school, they're a doctor, they've got a PhD, they're writing books, they're very educated, you would call that person erudite. So erudite would be an adjective to describe someone with, years and years and years of schooling. Now, the other word is experience. And experience is knowledge or practical wisdom gained from what one has observed, encountered, or undergone. So this is a little bit different, right? And I wanted to bring these two concepts up. The concept, or sort of the framework, I guess is a better way of looking at it. We're students for our whole lives. I really do believe that it doesn't matter how much education you get or how many experiences you undertake. In the end, you're always a student. And if you're lucky like me and you get to teach a subject, which I truly enjoy doing, I'm confident in my abilities to teach, and I enjoy teaching, and I know I've got a lot of wisdom and knowledge that I can share. But at the same time, I'm still a student and I'm still learning, right? So a lot of my learning has come from formal education and by going to school. But I've also learned a lot on my own time and just reading books that I want to read, and just reading and writing, not because I had to, but reading and writing because it made me happy. And I've learned lessons from my family. I've learned lessons from my friends. So in today's class, I want to talk about what it means to be educated and what education means. Because I even though I'm a teacher and I'm thoroughly, in the mix in the education system, I strongly believe that, people get educated in many ways. And we simply can't rely upon an education system to teach someone everything. I think that an individual, if they really want to find out who they are, and if they really want to, do the things in life that's really important to them and to help their family and their community, they've got to find education from outside of the school system, and they've got to find it, in their own minds and in their own families. So, just want to talk about that as we talk about our culminating activity. All right, so the culminating activity, the title is The Road I Have Taken and the Road Ahead. So of course this ties in with the overall metaphor for ENG3E that follows the units. Just to give you a simple reminder here, Unit 1 is preparing for the journey, Unit 2 is setting out, Unit 3 is the journey itself, Unit 4 is attaining the quest, and Unit 5 is what the future holds. So the entire course is built around this idea that life is, of course, a journey, and we all make one ultimate journey through life from birth to death, but within that journey there's all kinds of other journeys that take place, from being a child to being an adult, from being a rookie to being a pro, you name it. That's what you do, from being a child to being a parent to being a grandparent, right? So all of these journeys that one takes within their life is what this course is really all about. So, and the culminating activity is no different. So this, I'm reading now just from your assignment guidelines. This activity will be the final one you will be completing for this course. Your task is as follows. You will have the opportunity to reflect upon the fictional readings selections examined during this course, involving a variety of characters and situations, including workplace, and also non-fiction reading selections, which have focused mainly on preparations for the workplace. You will also be reflecting upon your own situation in life to the present time and being prepared for what the future holds. All right, so this is part A. Whoops. Okay. Yes, so with that in mind, we're thinking about all of the readings that have come before and all of the journeys that people have taken, and a lot of our fictional readings, a lot of our short stories have been about people either literally taking journeys, for example, leaving Vietnam, coming to Canada as an immigrant, or a young boy getting his first job, right? Or a young boy struggling with his past and becoming a young man and trying to right the wrongs of his past. So you're using those as examples to create your own story. So you've read a lot about other people's journeys, and now it's time to really delve into your own journey. Having a good education is a key success in life. Based on your past experiences as a student in school, from what you have experienced more recently, and what you now understand about being successful, do you fully agree with this statement? In approximately 3/4 page of writing, you are to comment on what it means to be successful and the role which education has plays for you. As a conclusion to your assessment, you are to mention whether or not you would like to continue on with your education at the post-secondary level, college or university, once you have completed high school. So we need to look at the evaluation for this. So part A, you get 5 marks for your title page. So that's a picture, a sketch, your name, the course, a date. So we've done this in previous ones. So if you saved a digital version of this, then you can pretty much use that as a template and just change the assignment and make sure you got the date updated and all that. So, and that's a very useful thing to do. In this course, we've introduced a lot of templates, and in the workplace, people use templates all the time. They don't want to recreate documents constantly. It's way too time consuming. The only problem, well, not the only problem, but I think the main problem with using templates and just copying previous work is if you get sloppy, you can miss out on key details like the chorus and the date. You know, if you repurpose it from a different assignment. So just be careful, like when you're using a template or basing your work off another model. If it's yours or somebody else's, just double check it. Make sure the right information is on there. So you get 5 marks for your title page, 8 marks for your rough copy. So keep it in mind. So you write that rough copy, and then you've got to show some evidence of revising it and editing that document. So you'll write the rough copy, and then your rough copy will have edits on the page, right? So you'll submit to me a rough copy that's been marked up. So you're going to cross out words, add new words, and maybe throughout this process today and probably tomorrow, I can show you how to do that on a computer. If you're doing it with a pen and a pad, then of course you're just simply crossing things out and giving notes to yourself, and because that's what revising and editing is all about, right? You're crossing out words, adding new ones, writing new paragraphs entirely, scratching out other ones, changing the order of things. All of that is much easier to do on a computer, but if you're doing it with a piece of paper, then just edit accordingly. And then you get 12 marks for the final copy. And the final copy will take your notes, your revisions, and then produce that final clean copy without any notes for a grand total of 25 marks. Okay, so what we will do is we'll start to look at the writing process to see how that goes. We'll have a look at the writing process and go through the steps and to see how I would approach this assignment and how I would like you to approach the assignment. Okay, so I'm going to create an outline, and then I'm going to use that outline to actually start typing and to create this document. So here we go. So we've got part A. This is our personal assessment. So here's some key questions you have to how you have to ask yourself. What you want to write about. So at the bottom here, I'm going to say, do you want to go to post-secondary? So you got to answer that question, right? After you graduate. And it's important to realize here that there's no right or wrong answer to this question. I myself personally, I mean, I strongly encourage people to pursue post-secondary education if they think it fits with their life. I don't think everybody necessarily has to, but if most career paths do require you to get some form of education, whether college, university, some kind of a certification. And even if you decide to say go into the trades and you want to be like you want to go to be a plumber or a carpenter or a welder, any number of other trades, you still need to get some education, right? Either in the form of just apprenticing with someone. It still is education. And when I was a kid, it was, especially in high school, they never talked about the trades at my school, but I think that's something I encourage people to do. So when you answer that question, do you want to go to post-secondary after you graduate? So you need to answer. You've got to say yes or no. and you got to explain your answer. Maybe you want to, you may want to wait a few years, or you may want to work first. So you could kind of phrase it two ways. You could be like, no, I don't want to pursue post-secondary education once I graduate, or I do want to pursue post-secondary education, but not until I've done these things, right? So you can just talk about your particular circumstance, but that's a key point that you have to answer, right? If you don't answer that question, you're not going to get full marks for this assignment. So you need to offer that. That's going to be the conclusion of your paragraph, right? Of your of your personal assessment, which is going to be 3/4 of a page of writing. So it's going to be 2 or 3 paragraphs. So that's going to be your conclusion. But the first part of it is, they had this quote: "Having a good education is a key to success in life. Based on your past experiences as a student in school, from what have you experienced more recently and what you now understand about being successful, do you fully agree with this statement?" So another thing you have to do is you have to comment on this phrase, having a good education is key to success in life. So you need to comment. You have to comment directly on that quote. So comment on that quote directly, and this is going to be like, do you, same with the other one, do you agree? And then why or why not? And then you are to comment on what it means to be successful and the role which education has plays for you. So, and then we have over here, we have what it means to be successful. So just after, and this is, this is what I would typically do, and I have to admit, it's been a while since I've been a student myself. I'm actually going to be taking a course starting next week, I believe. So I'll be right back in the middle of it. But this is how I approach my assignments, just looking at the assignment criteria, making sure I don't miss anything. And after kind of jotting all this information down, I'll just change the color on my pen here. So I would say that, number one, you've got to comment on that quote. Having a good education is key to success in life. Number two, this is what it means to be successful. And this is to you. So that's very important. Not just what it means to be successful in general. And then your conclusion is the third thing you got to address. So as with all of these writing assignments, my main advice to you is to be specific and to focus your writing. And I think the biggest mistake that students make when completing these kinds of assignments is they stay too general. And what they do is they write about education in general. Education is a good thing because it helps people learn and helps them get ahead, right? So all these kind of very, I guess, in a way, just kind of like basic or the easiest responses, right? And so I don't want you to do that. What I really want you to write about your experiences, right? What does education mean to you specifically, with specific examples from your life, with details from your life? What it means to be successful for you. Not what does it mean for someone else to be successful, or what it means for someone living in China to be successful, right? Because it's not relevant to your life. What does it mean for you to be successful, and how does education help you be successful? And again, the last one's easy, right? Because this is about you going to post-secondary. It's not about anybody else, or we're not saying, is it a good idea for people to go to post-secondary? What we're asking is it a good idea for you to go to post-secondary, given what's happening in your life right now and your plans and what you want to see happen? All right, so that, I think that's good enough for my outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a Word document and just start the motor, I guess, as it were, and just start this assignment and get it going. Using this outline as a guide. Okay, so I've got Unit 5. Just make sure I'm actually sharing my, whoops, am I sharing my Word document? I am not. Okay. So for now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to write in Culminating Activity, Unit 5. I'm going to go Mike Laverty. This is OLC 40. And today's date is April the 4th, 2023. Okay, so this, I'm just going to call this my outline. And so I think I should divide this thing into 3 sections, and I think that those sections might more or less just correspond to paragraphs. And when we write essays, words become sentences, sentences become paragraphs, paragraphs become essays and books and bigger things, right? And the central idea here is that a paragraph should be developing, it's usually developing one main idea, and everything else is backing up that main idea. So that's a really good way of looking at it, where each paragraph is like a mini essay, or a mini, like it's a little argument. And then when you add up all these arguments, you get one convincing argument, or one compelling story about somebody's life. Okay, so this is my outline. So I think I'm gonna have 3. I'm gonna look at this as 3 different paragraphs. And this is a template that you can follow as well. And if I go back to my notes here, so all right, so yeah, I've got a comment on that quote and say whether I agree with it or not. So the quote in mind, the quote of the day here that we've got to think about is, having a good education is a key to success in life. And then in brackets, I'm going to put, I need to comment. I'm writing notes to myself. I need to comment on this quote and say if I think it's true or not. So that's going to be my first paragraph. So And then paragraph 2, if I go back to my notes, paragraph 2, go back to my outline. Paragraph 2 is what it means to be successful to you. And I'm just going to quote directly from the assignment. It says, you are to comment on what it means to be successful. Okay. So you are to comment on what it means to be successful and the role in which education is played. Whoops. The role in which education has played or plays in your life, right? So that's critical. And then I know that my third paragraph is, this is going to be all about my post-secondary plans. You know, say if I have any, and explain my reasons. All right, so there you go. So that now you've got yourself an outline that's pretty rough, but again, I find that it's better to have this than to have nothing at all and just simply start writing. So I've got my three sort of categories here, my three headings where I'm going to put information, you know, about my life, and sometimes you just simply have to start writing just to get things flowing. And because, you know, even myself, I'm sort of struggling about how I would approach this question. But, you know, yeah, having a good education is key to success in life. So, yeah, I'm just going to start typing and just get some, you know, to get some words on the page. So, I'm going to say something like success, you know, because I think this is true, you know, success is usually defined by, you know, how much money you make, the kind of, you know, the kind of job you have, the things you know, the things you can afford. Oops. Things you can afford, and the house you and the house you can buy. So that's kind of one thing that sort of comes to my mind. So it's you know, we're defining what it means to be, you know, what it means to be successful in life, right? So, you know, I would say, you know, if that's what success means to you, then I agree that, you know, getting a good education will help you. But however, you know, if we think about success in other terms, you know, such as being happy, such as, you know, simply being happy, wanting to go to work each morning, maybe I'd say each day, or, you know, living with people you love, then it gets a bit more complicated. I can't really think of it now to be exact, but I know that maybe arguably one of the most famous musicians of all time, John Lennon, he had a great quote about being a little kid, and the teacher said, like, what do you want to do when you get older? And you kind of think he was going to say, I want to be a guitar player, I want to be a rock star. But of course, I think he just said he just wanted to be happy. And he remembers his teachers sort of like mocking him and being like, no, that's not what you want. What do you want to do when you get older? And he's like, I just want to be happy. And I think he explains it a lot better than I'm doing now, but it just kind of goes to show, right? So this is what kind of came off the top of my head, and I'll read it back to you. So success is usually defined by how much money you make, the kind of job you have, the things you can afford, and the house you can buy. If that's what success means to you, then I agree that getting a good education will be helpful. However, if we think about success in other terms, such as simply being happy, wanting to go to work each day, or living with people you love, then it gets a bit more complicated. So that's what I would. That's kind of where I'm taking it. So I and I really do think this. I think that getting a formal education is is one part of one part of becoming successful in life, but it's not everything. So that's probably the best way for you to approach the question too. Especially because again, like when someone says to me, having a good education is key to success in life, I don't disagree with that statement, but it's like it's complicated, and that's what makes for good writing. When things are complicated and when there's conflict. So me personally, I agree with that statement, but I think it needs more explanation, right? So I think that getting a formal education is one part of becoming successful in life, but it's not everything. So even though I have my I have my high school diploma, so it's I need to sort of think back to what I would have um, you know what it was like when I was on my way to graduation. So the second paragraph is you are to comment on what it means to be successful and the role in which education has played or plays for you. So perhaps I could say that getting or pursuing education has given me several employment opportunities, in my life. I also worked several jobs in my life that didn't require me to have a formal education. Yeah, I'm also thinking about just my experiences. So I actually went to university to pursue writing, and writing is something that anybody can do, and you don't have to go to school if you want to be a writer. You can just simply do it. Just like being a musician, you don't have to have formal training as a musician, and there's plenty of examples of world famous musicians who are completely self-taught and didn't do any kind of education, but going through that process is really helpful, right? So, I'm just trying to think about how I would fit things like that in there. Essentially what I'm saying is I have learned I have learned about life through my experiences in the workplace, through my friends, and other relationships. Let's see. I also talk about my experience, my experience as a father. Let's see what else I could put in there. Reading books on my own time. And again, just speaking out loud here. I guess what I am saying is that the word education also needs to be explained. Be explained or defined. Yeah, so when I go back to that original quote, having a good education is a key to success in life. So I guess what I'm really getting at is, how do we define success, and how do we define education? Because that's kind of where my mind goes immediately. I'm thinking about formal education versus, I'm just going to add a note up here. So notes, talk about the difference. Talk about the difference between formal and informal education. Going to highlight that just so I know it's a note to myself that I can explore later. And then paragraph 3 is my post-secondary plan, say if I have any, and explain my reasons. So I would say, I am pursuing additional qualifications to keep my certification as a teacher in Ontario, while also improving my skills and knowledge. So this is real, so I'm not making this up. So I am taking what is called additional qualification courses to keep my certification as a teacher in Ontario. So if you want to be a teacher in Ontario, you've got to go to Teachers College and then get certified. And then in my case, there is some requirements. So I am a fully certified teacher for the next, I think, 4 years. And they've given me some requirements. And I have to take, I have to take 4 courses. I have to take 4 of these courses. And so I just think it's hard for me to go back in time and to write this thing as if I was a high school student, because it's my answers are going to be so different. So your paragraph 3 is going to be different than mine, but that was going to be the case anyways, right? Because your life is different than mine. But that's what I'm going to do with paragraph 3. I'm just going to simply talk about myself pursuing these additional qualifications, and I'll see if I can tie it into, I learned to be a better teacher by, by reading books about education, being a father, staying up to date on how education changes, and then my own definition of success leads me to, I don't know, dot, dot, dot. So I've got, I'm just going to go to my review feature, go to my word count. So I've got 100 words. I've got about 250 words here, so that's good. That's So yeah, I got about 250 words. The thing is, they're not all usable words. They're not all. I'm not going to use all of these words, but I'm off to a really good start here, and that's what I would sort of suggest that you do is just divide this thing into 3 paragraphs, and then once I feel that I've got enough content for each paragraph, then I'll probably just cut out the notes to myself, add those 3 paragraphs together, and then might add a bit more as I go along. Yeah, so I think that looks good. I'll save that. Save that to my desktop and call it Unit 5 CA for culminating activity. Put my last name and ENG3E. So I can easily find that. It's a good advice to have. You know, that's a great piece of advice that maybe I can close with, you know, when you're working in a workplace setting and you're working with digital documentation, and if if you're just a writer and you just got a lot of documents you're working on. My wife is doing this all the time. She's a consultant, and she's always got multiple drafts and so many ongoing documents that she's working on, and she's had to create her own internal filing system to keep track of it. So if you name your documents the same way, they will appear in a folder like in alphabetical order, right? So you got to think about that, like just finding ways to organize your work and just saving it to a special folder, or just simply putting it on the desktop if you don't have a very busy desktop. But you know, just find some kind of a solution for keeping track of all your assignments. So, and you know, one good thing to do is, like, you know, I just spent about 40 minutes or so getting off to a good start, and I've been doing this for many years, but you know, and I don't expect your writing to be as fluid as mine right off the bat, but I would sit with this, and I would go for a walk. I would take my dog Snowy for a walk. I'd do some dishes. I'd do some laundry. I would stack some firewood. I would do something productive, and I would let this essay kind of I guess cook, or you know, kind of prepare in the back of my mind. And I guarantee you, your brain's going to put some pieces together, and then when you come back to this in a day, or you come back to it a couple hours, you're going to have all sorts of brand new ideas coming your way. So that's really good advice that's worked for me. You know, write for a bit, and when you've had enough, put it down and come back to it later. I guarantee you, you're going to have more to say, especially if you find you can't say anything else and you're kind of struggling. You're struggling for what to say. Put it down for a bit. Come back to it later. All right, that's all the time we have for today. We will continue our discussion of the culminating activity tomorrow.